Hello everyone, welcome to my drawing channel. This is Andradeng, and today I will do a little review of the Kakimori dip pen that I received from this Japanese company. Today's video is not sponsored by Kakimori, but they agreed to send me a set of dip pens with different nibs to test it, so I can give you guys my honest opinion on these products. Before I start, as usual, if you want to support my work, consider to subscribe to my YouTube channel and show some love to the like and bell buttons. And if you want to actively help my future projects, you can also check my Patreon page, where you can find exclusive content and additional tutorial videos. And now, let's go back to the video. So in the package I received from Kakimori, I found a bottle of ink with a very unique shape and have a little instruction inside. And also I found two nibs, one with this very unique bullet shape, and this is supposed to give you a different stroke depending on the angle you're holding it. So it's quite interesting and I'm really looking forward to try it. And then I've got this pen nib. It's a steel nib. It's quite nice. It has this very unique shape as well, and it's satin metal. I love the packaging, although the inside I would maybe do something more because these products are not inexpensive. They cost around 40 to 50 pounds. For that range of price, maybe I would expect to have something more than just a simple cardboard to hold this nib. But the rest, I like the minimalistic look of the packaging and the logo embossed in the front. And also I've got this pen holder. It's a timber pen holder. It's quite nice, so you can post the nib in. This is pretty nice in terms of design. And also included in the package, they sent me this little brochure where you can find the history about the company. They are established in Tokyo in 2010, and they are specialized in stationery and writing instruments. And also they produce inks as well. Yeah, this is a little bit of reading about their products and ink range. And now I will test this pen for a couple of days, and I will let you know what I think about. See you soon. And I'm back now with a couple of days of testing thoroughly these nibs, both of them. So I will share you guys what are my thoughts, what is my experience. So hopefully you guys will know if you want to buy it or not. So let's dive into it. The first pen I've tried is the Kakimori pen nib. It is actually a steel nib and has the shape of a typical fountain pen nib. It doesn't have a lot of spring, means it doesn't expand a lot, so the line is very consistent. And it is at the equivalent of a fine nib, I would say, compared with a fountain pen. You can dip in and it holds quite a lot of ink from the front and the back. I will start to draw something in the background. This nib is very consistent, doesn't have a lot of spring. Therefore, I think it's quite nice if you want to do architecture stuff like I'm doing now, because architects always want to have very consistent lines. So there is no much variation you want to add. And bear in mind that this nib is a fine nib, so you don't want to use it over a overly huge size of paper, because otherwise it will take a long time to finish a sketch. My preferred size, if you know my drawings, is an A5, because it's the perfect size if you want to wandering around and bring your sketchbook with you all the time. Since Kakimori is from Japan, from Tokyo, yeah, I felt to do a little drawing of Japan. But as you can see, the line stroke has almost the same, no variation whatsoever. So it's nice if you want to keep everything consistent and tidy. If you want to add more character, you will have to press a little bit more, or you want to change your nib into something with a broad nib. So as you can see, this nib can hold a lot of ink. So it's quite handy because you don't need to worry too much about dipping into the bottle every time. And also, it's quite smooth as well. I quite like that you can use the pen in many angles, because some of the dip pen doesn't write really well in certain angles, but with this one it's pretty smooth in almost any angle I hold it. Although the best way to release ink for a nib pen or fountain pen is always having a stroke that goes from up to the bottom. Yeah, it releases a very good amount of ink because the stroke can be very fast, and that's a good thing. Another thing I like about this pen is the finish of the steel. I think it has this matte color and doesn't reflect too much under a strong lights or something. Some other fountain pens is very shiny, and under the sun when you're drawing, it reflects a lot of light in your head, and it's not great. And I'm telling all these reviews and thoughts from a artistic point of view. Of course, I'm not a calligrapher, so I don't write much apart of my usual fonts and characters in the drawings. So people using this tool for writing might have different opinion. I haven't drawn with dip pens for a long time, and actually I'm quite enjoying now. And for my style of drawings, I prefer normally a medium nib, M nib, because it has much more expressivity. And the pen I used to draw, which are, for example, Mont Blanc, Meisterstück 146, or other pens like Lamy, they all have a little bit of springing. So you can add more variation in your drawing. So you can add more shadowing effects with thicker lines. I feel like with this nib, I'm pretty much constrained with a single thickness, and I feel I cannot give that much character compared with a thicker fountain pen nib. But although I feel this is very good if you want to add a lot of amount of details, because you can go really with these teeny tiny details. I think it's very good if you want to be precise. And I normally like to have a lot of shadow, a lot of dark under this roof. But in this case, I have to do a lot of vertical lines, or we'll have to crosshatch inside to get to that darkness I want. Another thing I like about the bottle of ink actually, it's the design and the angle that they put the top of the bottle, because it's slightly tilted. So when you are placing this on the table and when you're dipping, you are not completely on the top, but you are slightly angled like this. So I quite like this way to refill the ink, because you have to do this a lot when you're drawing with dip pens. So it's quite nice to have this feature. So well done for the design. Yeah, you see here for every details, like dark details, you need to draw quite a lot of lines to make it dark. But it is not the end of the world. You just need to be a little bit more patient, and taking consideration that your work might take longer time to be finished. So let's do a little bit of lettering test. I quite like it when you draw like a font or lettering, because when you do lettering, you want all the strokes to be the same no matter how it is angled. If you flip your nib, it doesn't really make any difference, to be honest. The back of the nib has almost not, if not even thicker lines than the front of the nib. It's quite weird. Maybe it's the way I hold it. I don't know, at different angles it has the same thickness. Oh, that's interesting. Because with fountain pen, when you flip the nib and using the back of the nib, it's much thinner than the front. So if I draw a line that way, and then this is with the front of the pen, and this is with the back of the pen, yeah, it's slightly thinner, but the difference is much smaller than in a fountain pen. So yeah, take this in consideration as well. Or maybe because this is a thin nib and there is not much difference between the front and the back. So that's a fair point. And one thing that I like about the dip pens are that they can be interchangeable between different nibs, and also they can change inks as well very quickly. So compare with a fountain pen, if you want to change the ink, you have to refill the reservoir with a new type of ink, and to do that you need to clean first and empty your previous ink, wash the inside, and then recharge. And if you want to change a lot of time, then it's a very lengthy process, unless you of course have like 5 or 6 different pens with different colors. But with dip pens, you can easily, like very easily, clean the nib, and that is ready to put in another color. For example, I've got here a lamy, so in this case it's a blue, and for example you can easily add details in here in blue, so it's quite convenient. And when you're done, if you want to change the color back to black, for example, you just need to clean thoroughly with a tissue, and yeah, there you go, you're ready to dip into the black color and carry on. So this is a very handy feature when using dip pens. Of course, the disadvantage is that you cannot carry this much around with you because it's a big thing. You have to carry the bottle, the pens, and you have to dip constantly in the ink every time. So it's not very portable, but definitely has a lot of nice advantages. No wonder comic artists prefer to use dip pens, because it's very easy to change the nib with different thickness, and they usually change a lot of nib in one drawings because they have to go with broad lines for the like a bigger scenes, or into the details when you're drawing a face, for example. Okay, so now let's try the other nib. The second nib I wanted to show you is this very particular bullet shape nib made of brass, and it has very pointy edge in here, and there are these channels in between where the ink flows to the edge, and it's supposed to give you a very different character when based on the angle that you're holding. As usual, you post the nib in the holders, and let's try on a piece of paper some of the feature of this. So as you can see, all the ink are held into this channel, and they will be released to the tip. You can have this thickness when you are almost writing vertically. For example, if you write 100% vertical, you have almost like a fine nib, right? As you hold it like this, almost like a 90 degrees or maybe 80 or 75 degrees. But the moment you start to angle down, for example, this angle, almost 60 degrees, you see the line is almost like a broad. No, maybe like a medium. Broad, medium. And that is quite interesting because with one nib you can have all these different variation. And if you lower the angle again, you can really draw like calligraphy nib. So this is like a broad or almost like a flexi nib. And it can be quite consistent as well. Look. So this is very interesting that with one single nib that you can achieve all these different typology of lines. And it holds a lot of ink, I have to say. And you can give a lot of character in one stroke almost. You can, for example, start with this and then angle down a little bit as you go. Like this. To a very, very broad. This is very interesting. And vice versa. And because it's a cylinder or a bullet, it doesn't have up and down or front or back. So you can really use at whatever angle you want. So when you want to tilt it, you can simply tilt it like this and vice versa. Like a brush almost. As an artist, I think this can be very useful when you want to add a lot of character and the variation of your line. And let's do now the same drawings using this metal nib. One thing I've noticed that you really need to do the lines and moving the whole arm in order to maintain the same thickness of the lines. Otherwise, it will start to produce all sorts of different variation of lines. Hope that makes sense. It releases the ink quite consistently, although the line is not all the same width because you really need to be careful about the angle you're holding. And also, it holds a lot of ink as well. When I did the first testing with this nib, I remember I almost done half of the drawing without dipping into the bottle. You see here, I think you can really play with the thickness, and it will give you a really different result from a standard fountain pen nib. Yeah, you see, I'm almost half of the drawing, and I didn't have to reload the ink so far. I will recommend you just to try it to see how incredible it is. It's almost like using a fountain pen. Yeah, I was really surprised at the beginning. I definitely didn't expect this. The other thing I discovered during my first test was that you really need to clean with a cloth the nib, because that amount of ink that it can hold dries up after some time. So you have to clean maybe every 2 or 3 dipping into the bottle. You have to clean with some hot water and then dry up with the wipe. So that will keep these channels clean. Otherwise, the ink will stuck in there, and it will be very difficult to draw because the ink flow won't be consistent. But apart of that, it's been really a pleasant experience using this dip pen. That's incredible. It still has ink inside. It's a humongous amount of ink that a nib can handle. Yeah, now I think it's dry. So on the trees, you can be more playful with the angle that you hold the pen. So it will give you a different type of stroke. And the fantastic thing about this nib is that you can go to really incredible details with the point, but also you can go broad. So by lowering the angle of this nib, you can literally add a lot of dark ink. It's really good if you want to express some dark shadow, and all with the same nib. So that's the incredible thing. And on the top, for example, you can really play with this thick stroke to give you a lot of contrast. You can really use some fast strokes to achieve a lot of shadows. Really like how you can emphasize this area with like a very broad stroke. You can give a lot of presence to the people in the foreground by giving this very dark stroke, so you can really see all the shadow and give them more weight. So you can quickly play between hatches and really solid and broad strokes. So I think this is so far one of the most playful nib I've tried. I think it's much more interesting than the other nib, the fountain pen nib that I tried. It's more playful, it has a more opportunity to make your drawing unique. See, it's very, very quick to transition to normal line and broad stroke. Let's write the title. So this is the Kakimori. It's called the metal nib, but I will call it a bullet nib actually, because it's the way I will describe it. Writing the title with this nib is quite interesting because it doesn't have the same consistency of the fountain pen nib that I tried before, but also I quite like this type of style, this type of roughness, being expressive without worrying too much about the consistency of the line. So far I'm enjoying quite a lot drawing with this nib. And now let me do a little bit of a recap to wrap up the video, and I'm gonna give you some pros and cons about these two fountain pen nibs that I've tried. For the Kakimori pen nib that I've tried, I think the nib is very similar to a fountain pen nib. So it's very precise, it's a fine nib, and deliver a really consistent lines, as you can see here. So for me, it's very good if you want to do detailed drawings, and mostly if you're doing architecture and you want to be really precise about your outcome. Although it doesn't really write thinner if you flip the nib, the thickness will be almost the same. And the cons of this nib for me as an artist is that you cannot really do much more variation on this nib, and you cannot try to do more like a darker strokes, thicker strokes to highlight your shading areas. And the only way to do it is to do the vertical hatch or any type of cross hatching. And with the bullet nib, I found that you can really be playful with the angle that you hold with this nib. It can be very thin if you hold almost like 90 degrees perpendicular to the surface of the paper, and deliver you a really, really broad and expressive, consistent line when you're angled down. And the thing I like about this is this pen gives you all the range of the thickness that you need to produce very unique and expressive drawing. And also the large amount of ink that this nib can hold is impressive, although you have to wipe the nib every now and then with a tissue in order to remove the dried up ink that will accumulate in the nib. So it's an extra process, but I think it's worth for the amount of range that it can cover. There we go, guys. This is my views of these two fountain pens nibs that I received from Kakimori. Let me know if you have any comments, any thoughts, and if you enjoyed the video and you want to see more about this, also write in the comments and show some love to the like and bell buttons. And consider to subscribe my YouTube channel if you enjoy this content and want to see more in the future. Thank you very much again for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye!